Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Welcome to day 2 of the Power BI Bootcamp. Please, if you can hear me, just kindly leave a comment or a reaction in the comment section. I want to be sure that everyone can hear me loud and clear. Okay, while I'm waiting for the reactions, if there's anybody you think that should be on this call that is not here yet, just nudge them and let them know that we are live so that we can get the numbers up. Okay, good. All right. Welcome everyone to yet another exciting session. How are we feeling? How was yesterday's class? Let me just get feedback, reactions in the comments. Are we excited for today? Are we looking forward to today's class? Before we go into what we have today, I'm just going to use the first 3-4 minutes, and while we're still waiting for others to join in, to do like a brief recap of what we talked about yesterday. And yesterday, we did an introduction into data analytics. I introduced you into I shared what data analytics is all about. We also talked about business intelligence, and I mentioned that data analytics is just the process of collecting, analyzing data to actually draw insights to enable organizations to make decisions, right? And I explained who a data analyst is. We also talked about some of the tools that you need to learn as a data analyst before we moved into business intelligence, where we started explaining how data makes your business intelligent, right? And I used a very beautiful example that everyone is familiar with: supermarkets, right? When you go to supermarkets to buy products and data is being collected, but that data is in its raw format, except you and I, as a data analyst, take that data, analyze it, get insights to enable stakeholders actually make decisions from it, right? And I said to be able to carry out business intelligence, there's the need for a BI tool, right? And I started explaining that is where Power BI comes into place, right? And Power BI is just a tool or a business intelligence tool that allows you to connect to various data sources, get connect to various data sources. You can connect to Excel, SQL database, Azure Blob. Think of any data sources. Power BI allows you to connect to over 200 data sources, clean this data, analyze this data, and build visualizations and reports that would enable that you can share with stakeholders, executives, that will enable them to make decisions, right? And I said, if you want to beat your chest to say you understand Power BI or you know Power BI, there's certain skills that you need to know, and one of them is data preparation. I also mentioned data modeling. I mentioned data visualization. I mentioned data analysis expression, which is also known as DAX, and last but not the least, business knowledge. So all these things, you need knowledge of all these things to be able to beat your chest to say, yes, I understand Power BI. And we've started looking at number one skill, which is data preparation, right? We brought in, connected to our first data source yesterday, brought in data, and we started cleaning this data in Power Query. Yesterday, I also walked you through the Power BI desktop interface, and also, we start looking at Power Query Editor, some of the key sessions in this tool. So today, we're going to continue our data preparation class, try to wrap that up. Some of the things we want to look at, which we've already started yesterday: numerical data transformation, how to actually clean your numerical data. We're going to look at how to clean your text data. We're talking about handling missing values, right? We're talking about handling missing values when you're dealing with numbers. We're going to look at how do you do that when you're dealing with text. We're also going to look at date transformation. We're going to look at how to pivot and unpivot columns, right, when you're dealing with wide form of data. We're also going to look at merging and appending your data before we now move into the next skill, which is data modeling. And if we still have enough time, we'll start talking data visualization. I hope I've been able to use I've done a great job at summarizing what we did yesterday. I mean, if there's anything I left out, you can do a brief recap, especially for those that are just joining the class for the very first time. All right, so without wasting much time, I'm just going to share my entire screen, and then we'll start looking at, excuse me, we'll start looking at the agenda for today. We'll continue from where we stopped yesterday. Okay, so first thing first, I wanted to mention, in case you saved your file, you can always see it here in your saved, whatever folder you saved it, and you can just click on it to open it. Remember, I saved yesterday's file as Power BI Bootcamp 10.0 data cleaning. So you can just click on that to open it, or launch your Power BI desktop, and under your recent, you would see it here. So I'm just going to, because I have Power BI open up, I'm just going to launch it from here, right? So under my recent, so I'll just click on it, and it opens that file that we've been working on yesterday. So we're just going to continue from there, okay? So before we go straight into the class, I'm going to copy the drive link once more, and just make sure that everybody have access to this file that we've been working on, so that in case you missed that, you would just have access to it. So a minute, everyone. All right. So right now I've pinned the drive that contains all of our resources. And remember, the file that we're currently working with is the data transformation file. So if you open that drive, look for data transformation Excel file, download it on your computer, and then you just get up to speed to where we are at. All right. So we were on Power Query Editor, and I mentioned something yesterday. So when you close your file like this, if you want to go back to the Power Query Editor, maybe you were cleaning, you're not done cleaning, and you want to go back to your Power Query Editor, what you need to do is to come to where we call transform data. Before I continue, by the way, please, if my pace is, if I'm moving too fast at any point in time, please kindly draw my attention to it, okay? Kindly draw my attention to it if I'm moving too fast at any point in time. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on transform data. Now, when you click transform data, it opens up the Power Query editor, right? It opens up the Power Query editor. And yesterday, we were able to look at how to change our data types, how to remove duplicates. We also looked at how to, use first row as header, removing rows in our columns. We looked at how to do calculation, right? Simple mathematical operations like your multiplication, subtraction. We looked at that yesterday. And then we also looked at how to, round off when you have like 5, 6 decimal numbers, right? And you want to round off to like maybe 2 decimal places. We looked at that yesterday. Something we also talked about yesterday was how to calculate absolute values. And before I go into text transformation, I want to spend a little more time. I want to just talk about dealing with missing values again when you are dealing with when you're trying to clean data, right? Especially when you're talking about numerical transformation. So I want to just take time, because I saw a lot of questions about it, and some persons don't know how to actually deal with this. The first thing I mentioned yesterday was, first thing first, know why your data is missing, right? You want to understand the data source. Is it a data entry error? Was it missed? And I gave an instance, right? For example, in your supermarket, you are doing a buy one get one free, and people buy products and you give them one extra product and you're entering that into your system, you're not going to record any price for that because no amount was paid on that money. So that's going to be a missing value. Yeah. When you're dealing with those kind of columns or those kind of data, you can go ahead and replace with what? Zero. All right. Now, but cases where, for example, you are dealing with, let me use an example of, say you have collected, you've done a survey and you're trying to, you've done a survey where you told people to fill in their salaries, for example, and a lot of maybe you're collecting this survey is for data professionals, and data analysts fills this form, data scientists, data engineers, AI engineers, and a lot of others, right? They fill this form and you've collected their salaries, but there are some data analysts that refuse to input their salary, and you're trying to do a survey, or you're trying to do a report of, like, just to check, say the average salary of a data analyst, or depending on this and this, right? And some persons did not fill their salary. Now you can use mean or median to impute salary depending on some factors, right? And I mentioned that when in a scenario, when do you actually use the mean, or when do you actually use the median? And you use the mean when your data does not have any outliers. That's when your mean and your median are similar. Or you use the in a case where you have outliers, you use the median. And I used an example of where you have like number of children in the kindergarten class, and you have one outlier number that is like one outlier age that's like 100. The mean age in that class cannot be 19 or 20. It's not possible, right? That's not a good representation of that data. So in such cases, you want to use the median. And I mentioned yesterday that I have a statistical playlist on my channel. If you want to understand mean and median very well, just do well to check that particular playlist. All right, so we're just going to go into text transformation now, right? Text transformation. So first thing first, I want you to understand is when it comes to dealing with missing values in text, it is a different ball game entirely. What do I mean? Now, with mean and with your numbers, you can decide that you want to do what? You want to replace with mean, you want to replace with median, you want to replace with zero, and the likes, right? But with your text, when you have missing values in your text data, we understand what we mean by text, right? Data that is represented in ABC. You replace with either unknown or unspecified. That is how to deal with missing value. For example, in this my first name here, where I have missing values. Remember I said something, right? We want to check whether your missing values is the same across, like it's across all rows. And by rights, your customer ID or your identification column cannot have a null value. I'll tell you that. I'll explain more on that when we start talking about data modeling. So in this case, I'm going to filter out this now. I want to take it out entirely. How do I take it out? And I would explain. So remember I said if you want to see all the values in your data, you come and click on this drop down, right? Now when you click on this drop down, you're going to this place that says null, uncheck the box for it, and you want to click on OK. And you want to click on OK. So that way that you can see I no longer have nulls in this place. I've been able to deal with the null value here, and by that right, first name and last name has also been sorted. So I want to fill in my email now. I have null value. 23% of this column have null value, and I want to deal with that. So remember I said we do what? Replace it with unknown or unspecified. So how do we do that? Who can remember what I said about I don't know if you can remember yesterday when we talked about replace values, right? So in this case, we are going to use the replace values method. So what I want to do right now is we are going to select that column, okay? The email column that we want to remove missing values. And then what you just want to do is right click on that column, scroll down to where you have replace values. So when you click on replace values, it's going to bring out this pop-up that says replace one value with another in the selected columns. Okay, so what's the value that we want to find? The value we want to find is actually null. And what do we want to replace it with? We want to replace it with unknown. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is to just go ahead and click on OK. and automatically it treats that particular. You can see I no longer have missing value in this place. And you can do the same thing for the phone number as well. Remember I said when you have numbers, phone numbers like this, what do you want to do? You want to change it as a text. I don't know if you remember the reason why I gave, but sometimes there are numbers that you cannot aggregate. It's best to leave them as text. And how do you change data type? By clicking on the icon by the side, the data type icon by the side, and just scroll down to whatever label you want and click on text. I'm just going to pause for a minute and make sure that everyone is following. So if you're following, can I get a thumbs up reaction, or just drop your favorite emoji and let me know that we are all on the same page and everybody understands what I've done in the past 5 minutes. All right. Excuse me. Now that we've looked at that, I'm going to let you all, practice by yourself by doing the same thing for, the phone column, the address. Okay, address is not empty. The phone column, and what other column that is empty? Any other text column that is empty. Okay, so do that by yourself to practice. Next thing we are going to look at here is we're going to look at how to actually combine columns. I know we have nulls in our date of birth. Don't worry, I'll teach you how to handle nulls in date of birth. We're moving step by step, right? We talked about numerical transformation yesterday. Today we are dealing text transformation. So I'm just showing you, how to clean your text data and how to, transform your text data. Please, if you are practicing, like you're doing it as I'm doing it, you will not be able to follow through. The most important thing right now is to watch first, watch me do it, then later on your own, after the class, you can do it by yourself. Trust me, if I'm waiting for you to do it on your own screen, and we're going to be very, very slow. So I'm trying to cover a whole lot. So please, if you miss anything that you don't understand, it's YouTube, it's live, just take it back so you can catch up whenever. So we don't keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Thank you very much. All right, so now let's look at how to combine two columns. Let's say, for example, I want to analyze this data, but I want to see my first name and last name together. Like I want a new column called full name, right? Because in this column, I might have two customers that are bearing the same name. So it will not be able to give me the accurate results if I want to see the number of products or the number of orders that this customer has gotten. So I want to get a new column that I'm going to call full name. How do I do that in Power BI? Now, to be able to combine two columns or to merge two columns, what you need to do is select the first column and select the second column. Now, something I'm going to do, because I want to add a new column. I'm not trying to I don't want these two columns, because if I go to my transform tab and I just do merge, right, it's going to delete first name and last name and just give me a full name column. But I don't want that. I still want to keep my first name and last name column. What I want is a new column that merges